Sayadaw has been explaining that the Satipatthana meditation that the yogis are now practicing should be of intensely good quality mindfulness. And Sayadaw explained how one should be mindful so that his or her mindfulness will be intensely good quality mindfulness, and yogis have understood. So what is left for the yogis to do is to practice so that their mindfulness will be of good quality. One should know the benefits of Satipatthana practice, and one should have faith and confidence in the practice. One should have strong wish to practice, and one should practice diligently. As much the yogi practices diligently, Satipatthana will arise, and the noting mind will be continuously sustained on the object, and there will be firm, steady mindfulness. And when the mindfulness becomes firm, steady, and gains momentum, not only that the noting mind falls on the object, but the noting mind sinks and plunges into the object. At the moment one is mindful, the noting mind sinks and plunges into the object just as a stone sinks into the water. The mindfulness is firm, steady, sustained, steadfastly established on the object, and it will be good quality Satipatthana. Paṇḍitā Sayadaw, meaning sati, mindfulness, should rush into the object. Noting the object with ardent effort, one will be active, alert, and the noting mind will be closely established, sustained on the object. When the noting mind is sustained on the object, the noting mind should not just cover the quarter of the object or half of the object or 2/3 of the object, but the noting mind should cover and spread over the entire object. Only if the noting mind covers the entire object, spreads over the entire object, then sati, mindfulness, will be of extremely, outstandingly good quality. Whatever the object arises, whether the object is big or bigger, the noting mind should cover the entire object. Paṇḍitā Sayadaw, meaning the mindfulness or the noting mind should cover and spread on the entire object, and there will be bhussata viseta, the mindfulness will be intensely outstanding mindfulness. When the noting mind covers or spreads on the entire object, there is no remainder of the object that is not noted. So at this stage of practice, yogi can note every arising object, covering, spreading on the whole object. there is no missing or failing to note the object, and yogi gains happiness in the practice. So the knowledge that arises through the practice of Vipassana, through the knowledge yogi gains happiness, and the yogi is attracted to the practice. And later on, Jaraji will explain how it is calm when upekkha, equanimity, arises in place of sukha, happiness. The duty of the yogi is to practice, and yogi gains happiness in the practice. So when the object arises, yogi should rush the noting mind onto the object in great momentum, so that the noting mind can keep pace with the object. In this way, the noting mind should plunge into the object, rush into the object urgently. When someone is drowned in the water, the one who is to help should plunge into the water in order to save the person. And also, when the fire breaks out, the fire extinguisher, the fire truck, should rush into the place where the fire is breaking out. In the same way, yogi should rush one's noting mind onto the object, so that one will be preventing the fires of raga, dosa, moha. The firefighter who can reach the fire in time will be able to extinguish the fire. So just as the firefighter should rush into the fire, in the same way, yogi should rush one's noting mind onto the object. Buddha categorized 11 kinds of fire. Among the 11 kinds of fire, Saraji explains the first 3, Ragagi, Dosagi, and Mohagi, the lust fire, hatred fire, delusion fire. The lust that arises based on various kinds of objects and various kinds of assistance is called Ragagi, lust fire. So if there are objects, single objects or multiple objects to be seen, to be heard, and so on, there can be lust. And lust fire has started. The lust fire grows bigger and bigger, and one commits wrongful things forcefully in order to get these objects, and it becomes extreme. And the lust between the opposite sex is more obvious, and there are many things that the person has lust on. As much one does not see the flaws of the sensual objects, the more the lust fire burns. The lust fire can even burn the blood in the heart, and it can even be fatal. If the person indulges in lust, the person commits wrongdoing by body, speech, and mind. Just as the fire burns the fuel, and fire leaves the fuel dark and dirty. In the same way, when the fire of defilement arises, the defilement fire also burns the person. If they are dosa, anger, hatred, aversion, and if anger is increased, one wants to torment others, wanting to kill others, and it becomes extreme. And if the anger fire arises, then it can burn the mind. Just as the fire leaves the fuel dark and dirty, in the same way, when the anger fire burns, both the mind and the body become withered. And if there is extreme anger, extreme aversion, it can even be fatal. So the anger causes the blood to discolor. There can arise blood clots, and it can even cause death. Moha is delusion, not knowing correctly, knowing wrongly. And there can be extreme form of delusion. So the delusion fire also burns swiftly or in great momentum, and it is difficult to extinguish the defilement fire. The defilement fire is just like the fire that burns without the fumes being seen. So among the fires, the raga, dosa, and moha are the greater form of fire, and they are most frightening. Not knowing the flaws of fire, one thinks highly of the fire, and one even plays with the fire that is dangerous and fatal. It is very important to prevent fire from breaking out, so one should take necessary measures in order to prevent fire, in order to overcome fire. Just as fire should be prevented, in the same way, one has to practice Satipatthana meditation in every seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and knowing. As the person comes across undesirable objects, one should prevent oneself from the arising of anger, hatred, fire. And as the person encounters desirable objects, one should prevent oneself from the greed fire, and one should also prevent delusion fire from breaking out. So in this way, there should be prevention. One should overcome these defilement fires by preventing them. When one is successful in preventing the defilement fires from arising, one will realize the Dhamma happiness that excels many times than the sensual happiness. Fire should be prevented, and if the fire breaks out, one should extinguish the fire immediately, and it will be very satisfying to prevent the internal fire from breaking out. And if the defilement fire breaks out, one should extinguish the defilement fire skillfully. So yogi is compared to a skillful fireman and firewoman in breaking, in extinguishing the fire. Tattharitva pavatati, meaning mindfulness should cover and spread on the entire object. In order to prevent any kind of danger, there should be prevention. And before the fire breaks out, there should be prevention. In the same way, when the presently arising object arises, one should be mindful of the presently arising object. The noting mind should enter the object. The noting mind should plunge and rush into the object so that mindfulness will be sustained continuously. As the yogi rushes one's noting mind onto the object, sati, mindfulness, will be closely established on the object, sustained on the object continuously, such that the mindfulness spreads onto the entire object. When noting rising of the abdomen, mindfulness should cover and spread over the entire rising. And when noting falling of the abdomen, the mindfulness should cover and spread onto the entire falling. And the same goes with lifting, moving, placing, bending, stretching. Noting the presently arising object that is obvious, the noting mind will be closely established, sustained on the object, and knowledge will develop. So in whatever object that arises, one should note the object so that the noting mind will spread onto the entire object. Just as the firefighters should occupy the place where the fire is breaking out, in the same way, in whatever nama rupa that arises, the mindfulness should occupy and spread onto the whole object. Just as fire has to be prevented, and if the fire breaks out, the person should extinguish the fire immediately. In the same way, the defilement fires should be prevented from arising. And when the defilements arise, one should dispel these defilements right away by being mindful. When the yogi misses or fails to note any object, yogi should notice that he or she missed or failed to note the object, and yogi should note the presently arising object. So sati, mindfulness, should be firmly, closely established on the object. Mindfulness should rush into the object in great momentum, and the mindfulness should cover the entire object so that sati, mindfulness, will be outstandingly good quality mindfulness. In order that the noting mind should spread or cover the entire object, it doesn't need to be done deliberately. But as Saraji had explained, one should be endowed with the supporting factors. One should understand the benefits of Satipatthana practice. One should have strong wish to practice, and one should note the object such as rising and falling of the abdomen, so that the deep mindfulness will be sustained on the object. Noting the object with aim and effort continuously, the deep mindfulness will be strengthened. The noting mind will be concurrent with the object. The noting mind spreads onto the object, and the deep mindfulness is automatically covering, spreading the entire rising and falling of the abdomen. When the noting mind covers or spreads onto the entire object, the quality Rakha Varana Goti will be obvious. Rakha Varana Goti meaning protecting, blocking, so that the mind will be safe and secure from the defilement. So one should have the supporting factors in order to develop a good quality sati. So Rakha Varana Goti, Rakha means guarding, protecting. Avarana meaning blocking, stopping. Goti meaning safety, security. So when the noting mind is safe and secure away from the defilement, there will not be the agitation of defilement, and there will be mukti, freedom. When the fire, lust, anger, delusion does not arise, there will be sandhi, peace. So in every moment that the person is being mindful, the person is gaining peace momentarily. Gaining peace momentarily, moment by moment, one can finally reach the stage of Achanda Sandhi, the ultimate peace. If the person wants Achanda Sandhi, the ultimate peace, one should practice so that one will be gaining momentary peace. Gaining momentary peace continuously, moment by moment, one can finally reach the state of the ultimate peace. It is better to prevent fire from arising. Extinguishing the fire after the fire has break out, the fire leaves ashes. So it is better to prevent fire from taking place. In the text, there are 3 kinds of sandhi. The first one is samudhi sandhi, the peace that has been recognized by people. So the peace that has been recognized by other beliefs, other religions, they claim the peace that they believe in, such as the Brahmariam is peaceful, and also in some beliefs they say that by having faith and confidence, the person will be born in a very peaceful place, the heaven, and so on. So such kind of peace that are taken by these beliefs, they are called samudhi sandhi. The second one is khanika sandhi, momentary peace. By being mindful of every arising object, such as seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and knowing, by noting the presently arising object with aim and effort, there will be jhanic factor, aiming, directing the noting mind onto the object. When aiming, directing onto the object becomes strong, with strong viriya, sati mindfulness will arise automatically. The noting mind will be direct or face-to-face with the object. Vicaya Vimukha Bhava Paccupatthana, the manifestation of sati, where mindfulness is direct or face-to-face with the object. So when there is Vicaya Vimukha Bhava Paccupatthana, the another manifestation, Arakha Paccupatthana, the manifestation of guarding, protecting, will also arise. If the person is lazy, not aiming the noting mind onto the object, not exerting effort in the practice, the noting mind will not reach the object. The noting mind will not be face-to-face or direct with the object. So there will not be any protection away from the defilement. The noting mind will not be calm and collected, and thus the defilement that can arise by lack of mindfulness will arise. By noting the presently arising object with aim and effort, mindfulness will develop. Mindfulness guards and protects the mind away from defilement. Noting the object with aim and effort, when the person gains skill in the practice, the noting mind becomes automatically aimed onto the object. Sati, mindfulness, arise continuously. The noting mind direct or face-to-face with the object, and the noting will be concurrent. There will be Arakha Paccupatthana. There will be the manifestation of sati. The manifestation of sati being guarding, protecting the mind. When there is mindfulness, there will be Khanika Sandhi, momentary peace. So there will be momentary peace by being mindful. By practicing further, one will develop Vipassana knowledge stage by stage, and when Vipassana knowledge becomes mature, one will finally reach the stage of Ajanta Sandhi, the ultimate peace, by attaining, realizing the Nibbana. In the word Ajanta, the word Ajanta is made up of Ati and Anta. When there is the cessation of the Nama Rupa, one attains the Ajanta Sandhi, the ultimate peace. So in order to attain the ultimate peace, one should be mindful of the presently arising object. By being mindful of the presently arising object, one gains momentary peace. So one should be gaining momentary peace continuously, and by gaining momentary peace continuously, later on one can attain the ultimate peace. When the yogi practices with aim and effort, one gains Khanika Samadhi, momentary concentration, moment by moment. But on the other hand, if the person is not respectful in the practice, stopping, gazing, imagining, not being mindful of the object, then she is losing the momentary peace. And in 1 minute of lack of mindfulness, there will be 60 moments the person is losing momentary peace. And if there is lack of mindfulness in 1 hour, there will be 3,600 moments the person is losing the momentary peace. And if the person loses the momentary peace, the person is distant or far from the Achanda Sandhi, the ultimate peace. So to put it shortly, there are three kinds of Sandhi. The first one is Sandhi by name only. And the second is the true Sandhi that is gained part-time, moment by moment. So it is momentary peace. And the third one is the perfect real Sandhi, the ultimate peace. And yogis have to be mindful continuously in order to gain the momentary peace, moment by moment, second by second. And this will be all for today. Sadhu, sadhu.